We good? Might as well.
Good.
All right. Evening, everybody. Welcome to East Bay Charter Township and the Planning Commission. Can we please all rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And can we get a roll call, please?
Richardson.
Here.
Ferguson.
Here.
Edley.
Here.
Walters. Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Wassam.
Present.
And Leonard.
Here. Next up is the review for conflict of interest. Anyone have anything to declare?
I just wanted to make one comment. We're going to be reviewing Skegumog Raptor Center, and I don't know if people went to look at their website or any photos, but my husband's name may be referenced there. He's worked with Jim and team, doing some photography and donations, and just wanted to put that out there. I don't think it's a conflict, but wanted you guys to be aware of that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think we're good. I don't think you got anything to worry about.
Transparency.
Yep. Next up is approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda, Planning Commission of Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion by Carl, seconded by Steve for approval of the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next up is public comment. Anyone have anything to declare? Come on up to the mic, you'll have 3 minutes. Okay. Going once, going twice. We'll bring it back to the crew. Next up is correspondence. We got a few things on our desk. You want to cue us up here, Claire?
Yeah, one item is from Garfield Township. They are in the process of a master plan amendment. They're looking for comments. I know you're just getting this, and so would love if you had time between now and the next couple of weeks to take a look at it and send me any comments that you have. From my perspective, they're making a small modification to the future land use map, specifically to the intersection of Town Line and South Airport Road, and they're looking to make it kind of more of an airport gateway. So from my perspective, it's increasing consistency with East Bay Township's adjacent property that we've kind of been developing with some quasi-form-based code to have kind of an airport service district, as well as consistent with the airport. So from my perspective, it's definitely in line with kind of regional land use trends. And so I think it would be nice to send them kind of a response from the Planning Commission. And so if anybody has comments this evening, it just came in yesterday. Otherwise, feel free to follow up with me in the next couple of weeks as well.
Sounds good.
The next piece of correspondence is from Cherry Capital Airport, the Joint Zoning Board. So this is a one-page summary of the ordinance that's under development for the airport. This is a 10-mile, as was mentioned, a 10-mile radius. So there's a zoning ordinance that regulates the zoning on airport property, but there's also a zoning ordinance that regulates uses as well as heights radiating out up to 10 miles outside the airport. The vast majority of the regulations are very close to the airport related to uses and heights. So there's going to be an informational session that's a regular board meeting tomorrow at noon at the airport. But they are inviting members of the public, planning commissioners, staff to come and attend that meeting, and there's going to be a presentation and overview. So if you're available to attend that meeting, it's tomorrow at noon at the airport. Otherwise, there's a lot of information on the airport website with maps and background information, as well as a copy of the draft ordinance.
Claire, do you know if that will be taped or live, available live?
They do not tape those, no, unfortunately not. There'll be minutes from it, and probably a copy of the presentation.
Any other questions about the correspondence? Okay, moving on to reports. Mindy, Township Board.
We've been working on that budget. The budget has to be passed in, I think, by December 12th or something, so it will be on the agenda next week. We did have a special meeting to go over the agenda. Also on last month's agenda was the slopes. And as you can see in there, we're going to have a conversation about it. I will not steal all of Claire's thunder there, but there was lots of concern about the fact that East Bay Township is a very hilly and rolly environment, and to make this steep slope ordinance the way it is right now, we're going to really limit ourselves, and we really need to look at that. It's kind of the consensus of the board.
Any questions for Mindy? Okay, Paul with ZBA.
Yes, sir. We had a meeting on the 24th of November. It was for a house in the Forest Lakes area. However, it was two variances. One was for a setback, of a small setback on an addition of the house, and that was like a 4x4 addition. And we granted that variance. And the second one was for the impervious area being over 20%. They were currently 29%. But they had it was kind of an unusual situation in that the property dimension was 724 feet long by 49.5 feet wide. So it was a really long, skinny strip. Just their driveway, which is over 500 feet, took them to 21%. So they were out of the game from the very beginning. However, in the changes that they wanted to make and the reduction of some of the current structures, they were taking it down from 29% to about 27%. And that was discussed, and then we approved that variance also.
Thank you.
Right.
So what percentage did they end up at in the end of the whole
I
equation?
believe they ended up at about 20, I want to say roughly 27%. So they went down from 29, and they took off 1 point some odd percent, so it came down to about 27.
Okay, thank you. Claire, you're up. Planning and zoning.
Okay, just a couple quick updates. There was a coastal resilience clinic here. It was hosted at East Bay Township. It was put on by the Michigan Association of Planning and very well attended. There was staff kind of from most of the coastal communities in Grand Traverse County, as well as kind of more broadly throughout northern Michigan. So it was good discussion. We talked a little bit about different zoning best practices related to coastal resiliency. And we also wanted to just give an update. Yesterday morning, we had our first Corridor Improvement Authority Board meeting. So we had full attendance. We have 8 members on the board, plus Beth, serving on that. And we are planning to meet monthly. They reviewed a draft TIF development plan and are kind of moving forward with getting that finalized. So it was a productive meeting.
Any questions for Claire? Okay, next up is meeting minutes from November 4th. Any additions, corrections, or alterations we need to be noted of?
Yeah, I have one correction.
Okay.
Down on the first page, under reports, it had me reporting that there was no meeting the previous month, which there wasn't. However, I was not here.
Yeah,
So, I don't know.
Didn't you call that in?
period.
Yeah. But I don't know who made the report, but it wasn't me.
We could switch it to just there was no meeting. I could
That's
make
fine.
that change. Okay, sounds good.
And then I brought up an issue with Claire, so I did watch the meeting, and the presentation about Camp Greilich and the entranceway and all of the congestion and challenges. And it's correct that there hasn't been a traffic study triggered, but if you remember, we did talk about that. The Planning Commission does have the right to pull that trigger, but we all elected not to do it, but it sounds like the time may be of the essence with what's being discussed and what was discussed at that meeting. Unfortunately, it wasn't here.
Where, do you have a kind of a page?
Well,
I'm just trying to think.
It was
where-
based on public comment and just some feedback that Claire made during verbal comments, so I just wanted to bring that up. And I think it should be captured, but it's the board, so we need to agree to that.
I mean, I agree with you, that we definitely talked about that for sure. And it was brought up a couple times by the general public.
I flat out asked them if they thought about another entrance.
Right.
So I don't know if we want to put that back on our agenda again, or what the appropriate position would be, Claire.
Are you looking for clarification? So I know that Mindy communicated to the county that you would be looking for some direction from Grand Traverse County Road Commission when they come back for a full application. So maybe that would
the
capture
time.
kind of the concern about the traffic study, if you wanted to capture that in the minutes to
Okay.
potentially reflect what was.
I
Is
think
that
it
what
would
you
be
were looking
appropriate to
for?
capture it there, yeah. But then secondarily,
Should be under 6A.
yeah.
Those commissioners,
Fits.
at the last sentence says, "Commissioners asked questions and commented on the overall plan and also shared concerns with the site access on the property as well as traffic in the area of the entrance, but were favorable to the addition." So I think, in addition, I think that Ann captured that well, but I think Mindy did specifically state that she would be looking for some correspondence, guidance from the road commission as to whether or not that entrance needed attention when the full site plan comes back before the planning commission.
But we also have, as planning commissioners, have the ability to pull the traffic study trigger now.
Right, but that's not part of the minutes, right?
No, but if you go back and listen to the meeting, I think it's missing maybe some additional clarity
Well, I
about
think
that conversation.
I think that's what Claire just added, is that right here near the end, that
That last statement.
the planning commission is looking for county road commission to opine on that.
Okay, that's fair.
I can add that to the minutes.
Thank you.
So with those two clarification points, did I hear a motion anywhere?
I'll move to accept the minutes of the November 4th meeting
With the two corrections.
with the two corrections. Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. We have a motion by Paul, seconded by Mindy, for approval of the meeting minutes with the two corrections tied to the lack of Paul's presence, as well as adjustments to the 6A tied to traffic, or potential traffic study. All's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next up is probably the easiest ones of the evening, the resolution for 2026 meeting dates. Hopefully, it's pretty straightforward.
I would just note that we've got two Wednesday meetings proposed. They're both the day after two of our elections that have been confirmed. So we have elections on the 4th of August and the 3rd of November.
I think we can make those work.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution PC-2025-04, meeting times and dates for 2026.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Paul, second by Steve for approval of the resolution of 2026 meeting dates. Is this a roll call situation, Ann?
Or a resolution.
It's a resolution,
A
yes.
resolution? So yes, could we please get a roll call?
Ferguson,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Walters, Gonzalez,
Yes.
Edley,
Yes.
Lossum,
Yes.
and Leonard.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to letter B, the Skegmog Raptor Center sketch plan review. I'll kick it over to Claire to kind of kick it off, and then we'll have a little presentation.
Yes, so we have James and the applicant team here this evening, but this is a proposed Raptor Center, not too far away from the other Raptor Center that was discussed at the last meeting. This one is on a parcel that is zoned rural residential. They are looking to use approximately 4 acres of the parcel for the Raptor Center. Raptor Center, from my reading of the ordinance, would be an education facility, and that is allowed through a special land use permit in the rural residential area. I will note that they're really not looking, it's not anticipated that a traffic study would be triggered for this due to limited scope and planned visitors and limited plans for parking, as you'll see on the site plan. They are looking to build this out in phases, as well as really kind of limiting the amount of public coming to the center. There will be, and they'll speak more to it, but I guess from my perspective, from a zoning perspective, it's going to be pretty low impact in terms of hours of operation, the number of members of the public that they anticipate coming, and some of their educational events are more going to be off-site as opposed to at this location. So with that, I'll turn it over to James.
Someone's on life support over there, I swear.
Hey guys, thanks for having us here tonight. My name is James Manley. I'm the executive director for
We need
Skegmog
to-
Raptor
okay.
Center. Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that.
There we go. Thank you.
I'm used to having a headset mic on because I'm working with birds and I walk around more, so I'll do my best to stand still. I won't take up too much of your time tonight. I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit more about what Claire talked about. Skegmog Raptor Center is an organization that takes in sick and injured birds of prey with the goal of rehabilitating them and returning them to the wild. I got my start working at Wings of Wonder back in 2006. Next year will be my 20th year of working with the Raptors. We've basically been busy from the moment we opened our doors. We've admitted over 514 birds in just under 5 years already. So we've been working and being able to grow and meet that need. We're also very involved with educational programs. For us, our mission is very important to partner with a lot of different organizations that have like-minded goals. As Claire said, we are looking to have some open public hours, but our focus is really partnering and building those relationships out in the community. And then we are involved with a lot of research projects and wildlife disease surveillance. I have a very good working relationship with our state pathologist for the DNR, as well as the 3 local tribal bands, working with their NRD as well, and just sharing that information. I did put together just a couple of quick clips to give you, I don't know, oh.
I'm trying to figure out what it is. It's gotta be a fire alarm.
No, it's the door.
It's the doors?
So this is just a kind of a little kind of recap of this past year. This is one of our educational red-tailed hawks here. It's a program we did recently here in Kingsley for a school group, and we're doing a flighted demonstration here for the students. So gives them an opportunity to kind of see how these birds fly and things like that. We have a couple. These are two of the three eagles we released back in September, young birds. So this first one was up north in King Orchards. This is a release we did at the Grand Traverse Bands Fair and Feast, partnering with them. I always chuckle because the volume's turned down, but if we have an indigenous group, you can always tell because there's a lot of whooping when the birds fly away, which I always love. This is our newest education bird. As I said, we've been busy since we've opened our doors, so we've been working on building some of the smaller enclosures and doing programming. So, as I said, our main emphasis is really partnering with like-minded organizations in the community. And that includes, so just as an example, here's a red-tailed hawk that was shot. It was brought down from Sugar Island up near Sault Ste. Marie, and we released it in front of the students here at Cortades. We just did a owl release this past Sunday up at Grand Traverse Academy. So, we are very invested in this area and working with our local schools. We've been talking with Louie and been in to talk to Claire a couple times. I started working, I'm sure I don't have to tell anyone in this room how generous Louie and Holly are with their time and resources in supporting these community projects. For years, Louie has let us exercise the birds on a tether. When we have to release a bird, we exercise them out in the fields, and we've been using his farm fields. And we've been talking about, this is the southern portion of 901 Rasho here, and we're looking at approximately 4 acres right here that we would want to rezone as an educational facility. So in this kind of initial site plan, we've kind of laid out, our goals for this. So, we are looking at having kind of a public area. This would be where our educational birds would be housed in these buildings here. This building would be kind of for prepping for food and, the things that we have to do indoors to take care of our educational birds. But what we really like about this site is that it's on private property, and so all these rehabilitation enclosures, we can kind of protect these birds from the public and from being, nuisance, as far as people coming up onto the property and bothering these birds. Per our regulations, these birds need to be kept wild, and so all the rehab work happens out of public eye. So really most of these buildings that you're seeing on the site plan are going to be essentially outdoor structures. I mean, they're not heated. They're, pea gravel floor or natural dirt floor. The only 2 buildings we would have would be, these buildings would be heated and have electrical. This would be kind of our rehab clinic. And we've broken this down into phases. So, phase 1 would include these 3 buildings. We are looking at doing kind of a small pavilion, maybe to be able to seat about 40 to 45 people, like if we had a group of school kids or something come. But I don't really see, 5 years from now, us being open more than 8 hours a week from May 1st to September 31st. Again, we really want to partner with a lot of these other groups. And as I look around this community and our surrounding communities, there are plenty of organizations that have like-minded stuff. So for us, the great part about this lot is it offers protection for our birds. It gives them a safe space to heal. And because of the land that it's on, this is kind of an example of like rough draft of one of the bird enclosures that we would have that we kind of brought along. But, because this is on farmland, I mean, if you come back to this, I'll back up just a second here. You come back to this first picture here and, we have essentially one 6-foot tall pine here, a couple 3-foot tall pines. We would look at probably adding some trees roadside, but it's going to be minimal impact. And for us as an environmental organization, we really want to be have as little impact on the environment and kind of keep this within the natural scope of having some trees, but, having it not affect the surrounding areas and kind of keeping with the surrounding areas. So, just kind of wanted to run this by you. This is an example, you know, we've been adding enclosures. As I said, we've been trying to grow to meet the needs. This center would certainly, you know, kind of fall in with our master plan of trying to grow in a sustainable way and make sure that we have safe space for the birds. So this is just kind of an example of one of our enclosures. This bird houses our red-tailed hawk that you saw flying earlier. So as we add more educational birds, we have 5 currently, but we'll need more space as we continue to add more. And so I just really wanted to come before you guys before we continue on with getting the architectural drawings in order for applying for the special use permit, to see if you guys had any questions or if there's specific issues that, you know, you would like us to address in that special use permit application. I mean, again, we've kind of looked through that. You know, we're looking at next to no tree removal. You will have some ground to level, but we're really not going to be changing that. I mean, as far as lighting goes, I see 1 service light on the 2 buildings that are heated, but, you know, we're not looking at a bunch of extra lighting or anything like that. Our goal is to really kind of keep our impact minimal with our, kind of in keeping with our environmental message. So some of the little things we might do is a small community garden, show people what it's like to compost, what people can do in their backyards to protect these birds, and to live harmoniously alongside of them. So I just kind of wanted to run that by you guys and see if there was any things that you specifically had questions on or needed us to address when we filed for the special use permit. And that was kind of it.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions for the applicant off the top?
Where are you operating now?
So we're actually operating out of a couple different locations. I have a couple enclosures at my place. I'm on North Spider Lake Road. Our clinic is in the basement of my house. And we have a couple enclosures across the street on Louis' property right now. We're looking at putting a third up. The weather's really cooperating with us. I got 30 years in construction trades. It won't be the first time we put a building up in the snow. And then my assistant has a couple enclosures out at his place in Interlochen, but we're really looking to have one kind of central location. And having this so close, again, it's right around the corner from my place. And then, you know, for us, it's very important that these are wild animals. Stress is a huge part of being able to successfully rehabilitate these birds. So we want them in a safe space where they're not going to be harassed by the public. So this fits very nicely with our plan. And what I would say too is my email address is down here. If any of you guys want to reach out to me and just come by and see where we're at and what we do, I'm happy to give you guys a tour, show you some of the birds. Not the rehab birds, but some of the education birds and stuff that we have in our facilities. I'm more than happy to have you guys come out and see that stuff, so.
How did you guys come up with that name? If you're, I guess I thought you were by Skegama.
Yeah, so I grew up in Williamsburg. There's a couple of really important spots for me, and Lake Skegama was one of them. I spent a lot of time as a youngster in the swamp there and running around in Skegama. The other one is the Boardman, but there's probably, 150 Boardman business something, so.
Yeah.
Really has to kind of do with just places that have been important to me.
Nice.
What is the guarantee of the permanency of your facility once built being there?
Well, our hope and why we want to do it in phases and so we can grow in a sustainable way. I mean, the plan is when we
No, I mean, do
start-
you own the property?
No, as of now, Louis is going to sign on as the authorized agent for that property. And so that's what we're looking at doing right now.
But the 4 acres, are they going to be permanently given to your?
That is what we talked about long-term, but yeah, right now, you know, Louis agreed to have this on his property on that trust, so.
So it's a piece of housekeeping, just so I'm clear, and maybe this will help you, Paul, too. So with the agreement with the landowner today, you wouldn't be creating a new parcel, right? You're basically just doing a land lease to occupy a certain portion of it?
That's what we'd be looking at now. I mean, we talked down the road about having that eventually become a separate parcel.
Okay.
But right now, we're looking at the feasibility of just getting started with it being on that larger parcel.
And the only reason I bring it up is because special use, right? We're gonna have to go through that process. It's gonna cover the entirety of that property, that parcel. which includes much more land than the
So
4.
I would say this is consistent with other approvals that we've done, and so sometimes to address that, so we approved site plans that have multiple parcels making up one site plan, or the parcel hasn't been split.
I mean, one good example is just like the Crimson development. They had most of one parcel and then like a portion of another parcel. So oftentimes, when you go through the site plan review or special land use permit approval process, the land division hasn't occurred yet. Oftentimes, there's like a development offer on the table. And so I think that could be done with the development agreement or a condition as a part of the approval.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like long-term for the trust or this piece. I'm sure there's a way to manage that, but I would just hate to have them be hamstrung with just this if they wanted to do something else with the remainder of the property. Just FYI. I don't think that's anything we need to get into right now, nitty-gritty, but just for your information, that'll be something to consider. To me, it kind of feels like an agricultural use, as you've kind of presented it and showed it. It doesn't look like some monstrosity, huge, impactful thing. It feels like you're not necessarily going to have like regular programming haphazardly. You'll have folks out there. Feels pretty
Yeah, I mean,
low impact.
again, I think, if I was to look 5 years from now, maybe 2 4-hour times a week in the, not in October, not in December, February, and January, and things like that. And we would probably be open by appointment for tours. But again, our goal is really to focus on, we presented a Bald Eagle program this summer and had 180 people come to Green ER. And we've partnered with Green ER on events. We partnered with the Grand Traverse Band on events. Our focus is really working with a lot of these other environmental organizations, Leland Outdoor Center, the Children's Garden in Traverse City. I mean, we really want to strengthen this so that, I think our focus is we want a safe and relatively quiet space for these birds to recover and to not have a lot of human interference. And, and also, I mean, again, our education birds are trained to be around people, but they're wild animals. They're not domesticated. So them having space where they're not being harassed at any time. I mean, we can very much control the amount of time that our birds are engaged with the public.
Other than the occasional car and snowmobile this time of year, that's about it that's going to go by. So it's a pretty quiet area. What do you think, Mindy?
My only concern when we talked about the pavilion and having school kids is that, is the whole bathroom situation and needing facilities for young kids and that kind of thing. So just wanted you to consider that as you.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this falls under like the special use permit or if this more comes into like when we are doing the construction drawings. But, this building here, we kind of thought on the back side of this, we would have a public restrooms available. This is really like a food prep where we get to get all the rats and mice and, thaw things out. And so I think we'd have room in this building to have a public bathroom. So, I mean, again, we are looking at being open to the public, but.
But then you're talking about water and sewer, and you didn't mention those at all. You only mentioned electricity, so I was just.
Well, yeah, we're clearly going to need a well, so we've got the well shown here and the septic field and, yeah, so, I mean, to my knowledge, there's no sewer out there. I mean, I'm just around the corner. I know I'm on a well and septic field, so.
Claire, they would also need like metro fire and stuff like that, turnaround space and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so that would all be reviews that we would receive prior to approving a special land use permit.
Okay. Cool, I like it. More raptors, the better.
Any other questions?
There aren't really any neighbors for the most part, but I do like the idea of just maybe some light landscaping along Rashville Road, honestly. I mean, nothing crazy, but.
Yeah, so I mean, I envision us having a row of trees across the front there, not just for landscaping to block what the public's seeing, but a little bit of a sound block for the birds as
Sure.
well. We worked on kind of keeping that driveway to the north, because I know this is not a super sharp corner where the old compactor station used to be, but you're coming up a hill, so, we wanted to keep that far north. So, I mean, we will add that when we submit the actual site plan, to kind of have that in there.
Sounds good. Any other questions for the applicant? Well, thanks for your time, appreciate it, best of luck.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to seeing you again.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, the meat on the bone, zoning amendment 7-25. Let's learn more about what we can do to adjust some.
So if you'll recall, there was a public
comments.
hearing for this. It was recommended to the township board. There was a fairly lengthy discussion. This was at their November meeting. It was just there for an introduction, so it wasn't like they were looking to approve the ordinance. But I'd say two things came up. One was that, as Mindy alluded to and stole my thunder, they were looking to have a little bit more focus on the environmentally sensitive areas, so a little bit more focus on the areas that are steep slopes adjacent to water bodies, wetlands, streams, as opposed to kind of blanket provisions across the entire township. Right now, the way our ordinance reads and the way that the ordinance is proposed is that basically steep slopes do kind of trigger that they're part of the definition of environmentally sensitive areas. So if you're out in the middle of a field and you've got a steep slope, then you've got the same requirements and restrictions as somebody that lives right on Arbutus Lake that has a steep slope. So I think one thing the board was looking for was to have a little bit more lax regulations on steep slopes that are outside of the, environmentally sensitive areas, the buffers, near the lakes, wetlands, those types of things. The other thing that we discussed was, I think that part of the intent behind the steep slopes ordinance, at least from my perspective, is to ensure protection of new development sites. And so one thing that I included Garfield Township's provisions in this ordinance because I think that they do a nice job differentiating between like a development site and regulating steep slopes and kind of where development can go versus like a single family parcel where somebody's putting one home. So actually, I reached out to their zoning administrator today, Mike Green, and just asked him a little bit more about kind of in practice how they administer their steep slopes ordinance. And so you'll see in the ordinance, and I think I put it on page 25 of the packet. They say grading or removal of vegetative cover shall not be permitted on land with existing steep slopes of 20% or greater. So they're really only applying this to a development parcel. They're not applying it to the single-family parcels that are getting land use permits. So I guess from my perspective, and I am interested to hear the Planning Commission's perspective, but from my perspective, I think if we do relax the steep slope standards on kind of the non-environmentally sensitive areas away from water bodies, I think it would still be prudent to have those some level of steep slope protection on larger development parcels. We've got a lot of wooded areas with steep slopes, and I think it would be prudent to avoid kind of that development pattern of just leveling a hillside and developing that.
That's what I thought we were trying to avoid.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to avoid, yeah. So I think that we could do that by having those protections and provisions on like a development parcel, however we define that, versus like a single-family home.
Thoughts of the board?
So wait a minute now. So you're saying, and I'm looking at this matrix you're forming up where you have the environmentally sensitive group, non-environmentally sensitive, and then large parcels versus,
Yeah, and I think we could differentiate it. If you go through site plan review, you have to adhere to the steep slopes requirement. If you're not going through site plan review, then you wouldn't. That would be a way to differentiate it, because So then we wouldn't necessarily be based on parcel size, it would be based on the type of development.
So then we wouldn't necessarily add like, would you define that in like the intent of it, or would you put that as like another number under F? Like, basically, we're just missing a bullet point to delineate those two different situations. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think if you guys provide me with some policy guidance, I could kind of go back and see how to, I think we will want to rework this language a little bit.
Was there any comment from the trustees relative to the percentages we used?
No, except for the fact that, 15% is not really that big of a slope, right? And then I started thinking about my property, and I think a lot of you have been by my property. I am way more than 15%. My backyard, the slope to my walkout is pretty much vertical. So, if this were enacted when my house was built, my whole subdivision would not exist. The subdivision we just approved behind my house would not exist, because you can't build any houses with this going through. And I don't think that that's where we want to be either, because I think we're trying to allow for unique housing types, if you will, and if we limit where you can build, I think we're going to have a huge problem. So I apologize to everybody that I didn't think this through, even on my personal property, before we looked at it. But that was the biggest thing, is that, a 15% slope is really not that much. My driveway is probably 30%.
And Mindy, just for clarification, the way this is drafted right now, you would be able to build on a slope of 25%.
But you have to get a geotech engineer, don't you?
If it's greater than 25%, you can still put driveways in without a geotechnical engineer, but
Yeah, I would need a geotechnical engineer to build my house.
Which is just added cost to the homeowner, or
Absolutely.
builder, or developer, whoever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we're also trying not to
But if you have
strip
sediment.
the land.
If you had sediment removed coming off of my property, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is not going to get to a water body. It is not going to get to a wetland. It's although I want it all to stay on my property, not saying that I don't, but if we had a landslide, which we've had in our front yard, because it is that steep, it stays on my property.
so Mindy, would you be supportive of some provisions to limit steep slope development on like a development parcel that's not in an environmentally sensitive area like yours?
Well, that means my development wouldn't exist.
Not necessarily. I think if you look at Garfield Township's, the language in Garfield Township, there is some flexibility, but it just ensures that within a development site, that you're not building on the areas that are steep, that you're designing your development in such a way where you're preserving the steep slopes and you're building in the areas that are not steep. So I think it allows for some flexibility, and I think that the site plan review does facilitate that, where you can actually look at the site, you've got the contours, and you can make sure that the steep slopes are being preserved to the greatest extent possible.
How would we, as planning commissioners, be able to validate that with the topographical map? I mean, that's not our area of expertise, so we would need to rely on somebody else. And I understand adding, another engineer to the project can be extremely cost prohibitive.
Well, if we have a contour, if the surveyor put together the contours that we can look at, then we can have a
Okay.
good feel for where the steep slopes are. And they would take those measurements and provide that information to us.
I would need some training and education. I'm sorry, it's just foreign concept to me to have to make a judgment call on something like that. And I don't know that much about it.
Why we even got down this rabbit hole was tied to a project, well, gosh, where exactly is it? It was over, it'd be in the west side, southwest corner of Arbutus Lake. Somewhere over in there, it'd be east of Garfield Road. What's the road that jogs?
Solon?
It jogs east. There was a development that Doug Mansfield and Whiting,
Oh, the Arbutus Ridge?
yes. That was the one in my mind where,
Oh, the ends of Hobbs Highway there?
it'd be west of there.
Because that's that waterfront.
Yes, Whiteford.
No.
And I remember there was comments back where, because they did a lot of land shifting to be able to develop that property. It was pretty steep, but they had shift like massive amounts of the ridges to make it navigable. And I remember that was one of the ones in my mind, and that was a unique piece just because it was so steep and there were so many peaks and valleys in it. But the reason that I guess I wrapped my head around the way that we structured this was, to your point, was to focus on places that aren't so steep to build, so that you weren't having to do so much grading to balance it all out. Like, that just might not be the highest and best use for that piece of dirt, like, sorry. That's where my head was. It wasn't necessarily to open up more, but in my mind, it was like, let's preserve those places that are already that steep and try not to impact them so heavily. I get your point. We are definitely like, this to me is more restrictive.
Well, it's less restrictive than what is currently in our zoning ordinance right now. So, I mean, it's a step forward, but I've been told, though I never saw the property for which my subdivision is on, that there was a huge, where the road is, was 20 feet lower. I never saw it, I don't know, it's just, but I know that my driveway is insane right now. And my neighbor's is worse than mine. So, but I think about the development behind my house that's going in right now, and not one of those, I don't think that development would be allowed under this current zoning, even Garfield's. Because the road might be in the middle, but the road was already cut when they did my subdivision, so it's already been reworked. So I see the reason for this, but I think we need to be careful and that we aren't restricting ourselves so that we can't build anymore.
Here you go. I'm just thinking in my head too, though, what this will do, though, is it will make someone think twice about buying a piece of sharply elevated properties for development purposes solely. I mean, they're gonna go look for something that's a little less aggressive, I would imagine. I mean, that's in my head like the point.
Or the view is so spectacular, it doesn't matter how much money.
Yeah.
Or they'll put one, and it'll be a residential structure, it won't be a subdivision.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I look at the Ridge property, and that was totally developable. if the Land Conservancy hadn't stepped in and purchased it, and that was significant topography. And I think about, other developments in Grand Traverse County, the one right over at Tom's West Bay, like where the hills, like that was very striking and still striking. And so I think it's, it makes sense to be kind of proactively looking at those types of developments happening here. And I do think that we have a lot of developable land that is much flatter. So,
I'm on board with the sensitivity, or the environmentally sensitive piece. I mean, if we could deal that in or make it better articulate the importance of that, like, I'm on board with that. But I personally don't really want to pull back anything because, again, this will influence where someone will look, in theory, to develop. Like, just period. It's going to cost more. It's going to be a lot more grading. You might be able to make more because you're probably going to have some pretty unique dirt and some great view. But I don't think that they're going to take those sharp, steep pieces and put houses on them because it's going to be, I think this would be a little more prohibitive.
And you say which would be more prohibitive? Doing what Garfield did?
Doing, or leaving as is.
In other words, section 2 would say 2A, environmentally sensitive, and you'd have it as written. And then 38 or 3.8, or section 3.8, A, and then section B. B would be non-environmentally sensitive, and you'd have a different scope for that.
I follow you. Yep. Yep.
and that would be more through the site plan review process.
That'd be through the site plan review process, but also taking some of the Garfield pieces in there. Because the most, let's say, the most at-risk area is the environmentally sensitive areas that we have.
So Heather wrote to us from Watershed. And she made a recommendation of maybe adding some more guidelines about certain sizes of trees being able to be removed and or potentially the replacement or requirement. Could that be something we could do in these other areas that aren't, and I mean, do it across the board, but also in the non-environmentally sensitive areas to help hold some of that topography in place? So you don't have a landslide like Mindy's had at her own personal house? I don't know if you guys saw that in her, I think it was about her last paragraph of her letter.
I guess from my perspective, it's much more important to be preserving the existing trees and vegetation, and that's kind of part of the
agree.
the thought behind, preserving the steep slopes and not impacting them. I think once you do, start with the grading and stuff, the landscaping is helpful, and adding additional trees, but I don't necessarily see where we would add additional landscaping standards for a development where we already have, pretty robust, landscaping requirements.
But if it's even before that we get to the point of that, and there are large, trees on the property, and they're trying to map out how they want to develop that, if we state, you've got this percentage slope, you can't remove a tree bigger than X. I mean, they could work around it a little bit, maybe. just to hold the land in place. And yeah, the standards are great. This would just be kind of in preparation for them going to the project status with the landscaping.
One thing that is challenging with tree removal is when people take out trees before they come in with site plan review.
We see it all the time. And
So, and I do think we've done, I feel that Planning and Zoning Department has done a better job proactively educating, and so, we have been effective with the tree removal within that 50-foot buffer. I think if we start policing tree removal outside of that vegetative buffer, it's going to be challenging. Especially with measuring slopes and enforcing that.
So Mindy, just to go back to the board's concern, is it kind of this attitude that they're trying to, like, they want it to be a little more open for development? Because
The comment was, it's your land, you should be able to do what you want with it.
I get it.
Just get a geotechnical engineer involved.
Board and mass.
That was one person very specifically.
So I get that too. I get that too.
And I think
Yeah,
their
within reason.
perspective was like, hey, if I have I own a single-family parcel, I'm building a home, I'm going to have a walkout
He said I
basement or walkout garage.
couldn't build my home if these.
Yeah, so I think, to me, that was kind of a takeaway between, somebody building their home versus coming in for site plan review with the development. I think we can take two different approaches.
I would agree with that.
I mean, I'm cool with that if it's one-off and not, yes.
What do you mean one-off?
One-off, meaning an individual lot versus, like, there are so many lots that are out here that are probably already have these steep slopes that aren't built on yet. I'm guessing. So we take one of those and someone finds a creative way to put a driveway in to build a home on that property. Let's say it's 20 acres. The alternative to that is if they come in for site plan, or they come in for, site plan approval to build a condo development on the same piece of property, let's say it's steep and winding, they're gonna have to do a significant amount of grading all over to be able to develop that site, period.
Right.
So the idea is, okay, well, maybe they have a portion where they could focus development in an area and do a cluster and preserve what's there so they can still potentially develop it. It's just not going to be scattered throughout the entirety of the property. It'll be focused in one area. Is that,
Yes, that's
That's the
exact-
idea?
Yeah.
that's how I'm envisioning it. That is, but that's,
But you're not gonna have Holiday Hills at all.
What's coming, and I just want to be clear too, I want to understand this, because this is tricky stuff. I'm like her, like, we don't have degrees in this, but what about the people that have bought property with a steep slope with the intention of building someday? And I'm very specifically thinking of one right on Proudy Road. I myself was like, I would never buy that property. I have no idea how they're going to build on it, and I'm pretty good with building, I grew up around it. But you have, the driveway is going to be awful, you have to dig into this hill. I mean, it literally goes like this, and the whole lot is right, that's it. And I'm like, so what about those people that are waiting to build their dream home? How does this affect them?
They could build their dream home, but they would be limited in being able to, condominiumize that property.
put in several units.
Right, so they could do their one.
Anytime
Yes.
site plan review is triggered, then it would be subject to
Steep slopes.
whatever percent. And we have, does the board have a preferred number for?
I think
percent?
it's 25% is the percent that we have in this draft one that came before us.
So
As
this
to the beginning,
house, the one
25%
Proudy,
steep.
would most likely be a bigger slope than that.
And they,
It's gotta
and they
would
would
have
not
to
be
come.
subject
It's
to
got to
the
be a
steep-
Mindy side, I'm like,
So if you have a large property, you want to build a single-family home, you are not subject to the steep slopes
okay.
provision.
That's what I
You would
wanted
be
to
subject
understand.
You'd be subject to the steep slopes provision for two reasons. One is if you are in an environmentally sensitive area, so you're
Okay.
adjacent to wetlands, water bodies, those types of things, or you're doing a development that comes
Okay.
in for site plan review.
I just wanted to be really clear on that. I
That
was
is
not.
the direction that we're looking at going based on board feedback, as well as planning commission
Does that work for
discussion
you?
tonight.
Well, yeah, but like you said, your development wouldn't be built, so it's still kind of a problem.
None of Holiday Hills would be.
Well, I know, yeah, right.
So back to this piece of property on Proudy that's got this huge slope, and they want to build their single
They're
family
okay.
home.
They're okay.
They're okay, but they could go in there and strip that piece of property. Are we okay with that?
They'd have to, because there's no way.
Oh, well, sorry, I haven't seen it.
They're in the process of getting a stormwater permit, or they have a stormwater permit now.
Okay,
And
so
that
they
is
did
that
already
is for a
strip the land.
That is for a single-family home.
Okay.
But yeah, I do think it's challenging to.
That's not the one I'm thinking of. Are you thinking of the one where they cleared the land and put the road in?
On the north side of Proudy going up the hill.
No, that's not the one I'm thinking of. I had a problem with that at first too, because I was like, are you kidding me? I asked you, I texted you about it. I'm like, can people just wipe out the entire forest? But, no, it's not that one. It's further up towards English Woods, just on the left-hand side, and it's literally
Right, there's drivers.
Yeah.
like this.
Well, I think if we have a policy in place, then there's going to be less incentive to go in and clear forest, because you're not necessarily, you don't want to clear forest for a single-family home. That's not going to be the highest and best use for that.
I mean, I'm sure they got paid big bucks
If
for
they
that-
don't have a,
that wood.
if there's not a,
The other one.
development benefit to it, then from my perspective, there will be less of that type of clearing and grading.
I think that this would change the development pattern of Holiday Hills, no question. Like, moving forward. Okay, so all that was done, I don't know, when that was built, a while ago.
70s,
But that was
80s.
also, different time, different structure, different just mindset, I think generally. And I go back to like master plan feedback, protect steep slopes, leave things as they are, that kind of stuff. And so that to me is like, okay, yes, this is, like, to me, I think that this is a little more defining, but it's going to require people to get more creative as to how they develop it, rather than just clear cut and level it all out. But I thought that was kind of the intent behind it.
Will it discourage development? I mean, because I don't think we want to do that either, but obviously there's a fine line there.
Hopefully it will focus it in more appropriate locations.
Well, what if those locations are not available? The deals are going to be the ones with the slopes. The harder ones to sell. It's like selling a house with a steep driveway. They're harder to sell. So that's why you get the better deal.
You think we'd be okay to try the environmental piece the way Claire's kind of got it outlined?
Okay.
I don't think anybody disagrees with the environmental one.
I'd actually like something to react to.
Yeah.
I prefer Claire put something together and then be able to study it and actually read through and say, okay, what does this mean for this homeowner who wants to do something, this homeowner in the environmental sensitive area who wants to do, what does it mean for this developer who wants to do something? Because I have a hard time just.
Also
imagining
table.
out of,
Yeah.
right.
Maybe I could put together a flow chart in addition.
A flow chart would be helpful, doesn't have to be, but just something I could look at.
Yeah, we're visual people.
It's silly, and what we're thinking is that.
We'd like a PowerPoint.
This is not going to happen next meeting, we're not going to finish it, whatever.
Could you
That's kind of
do
what I'm
it?
thinking.
Could you put a picture in there?
So what I would like to
I'm not
see
kidding.
on your thought process
Go take a
Yeah.
picture of Mindy's
is
house.
taking what you're thinking and apply it to Holiday Forest too. What did it
That would actually be
work?
really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's the one by the water tower down the hill. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
That's a good idea.
I mean,
That was challenging enough, just getting it to where it is.
But to your point, Mindy, that was all, like, that was pretty much done that way, for intent of developing it at one time.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I think
But
the
it's still
we already had-
really,
We had a moving, move the houses forward because there was too much of the slope behind them, right?
But it's still.
I mean, I can look at the,
steep.
I can look at the slope based
Yes.
on the conditions when it came in for site plan review.
Right, exactly. Right, we can't go back 30 years and look at it, but when it came in, because that was what, 2 years ago?
I think that would be.
Where are they?
Yeah, I agree.
Where are they right now in the process?
Moving dirt.
Yeah,
Okay, so they're, so at the very beginning of the process.
oh, yeah. I don't even think they have any infrastructure in, do they?
They've got like they've started with the water and sewer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion?
They're going to have water and sewer over there, and we can't have it in English Woods.
I know, you're so close.
What? What? That's-
You have, don't you have water? I thought you have water.
No. No, I had to replace my well pump when I first moved in. I don't have water.
I feel like you got good direction.
I do, yes.
This is a good conversation, so
Thank you.
then we can come back and chew on something.
Might not be back for January, but we'll get it back in early 2026.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Last up for new business is the special events ordinance.
So this one, we've taken a bit of a hiatus on this. Back in 2024, the Planning Commission reviewed the transient activity ordinance and discussed replacing it with a special events ordinance. We didn't want to throw it out and rewrite the whole thing, but we did discuss some changes to make the ordinance more usable and reduce the possibility of negative impacts of adjacent land uses from special events. So the Planning Commission reviewed some draft changes, some draft language from Fahey Schultz. And some of the changes that we put in there are articulated that the community would benefit from, the community benefit that would be provided by special events. We're requiring documentation to show that the proposed special event is not in conflict with either a special land use permit or site plan review. We're limiting special events to 3 events per year on private property. And then we've also got additional details on noise control, lighting plans, sound, proposed amplification, emergency response. So more details as a part of the application package. One issue and part of the reason, and so the Planning Commission back almost a year ago now recommended this draft be approved by the Township Board. So because it's a police power ordinance, you recommended that it went to the Township Board, and so we were kind of done working on it. But one issue that came up was just the fact that Timber Ridge is a private property, and they host 8 events per year. And so we didn't necessarily want to hamstring Timber Ridge with their operations. We didn't want to negatively impact them. I've been kind of in communication with Timber Ridge, kind of asked them long-term, do you anticipate more than 8? They said no, 8 would be the maximum that we see hosting long-term. So in talking with our attorney, kind of how can we structure a special event ordinance? You can't specifically call out Timber Ridge, but Timber Ridge is unique in that it's the only private campground in East Bay Township. The other thing that's unique about camps and campgrounds is they're required to be at least 40 acres. So if any new camps or campground came in, would need to be 40 acres. So one thing that we would be recommending would be to amend the ordinance to allow camps and campground to permit up to 8 special events per year. If we came to a situation where we had a new campground and there was a feeling that it was not an appropriate event venue, was not appropriate space to host special events, if they were starting to seem like they were going to host special events, we could always revisit this ordinance. It's easy to amend. It can be done in a couple of months. But we really talked through a lot of different options with our attorney to kind of figure out how best to deal with Timber Ridge, short of rezoning them and creating a new zoning district. And this seemed to be the best approach or best tool. So just wanted to present this in front of you. Would be interested in your impact or your input on this. And you can always recommend changes. We can come back. But ultimately, you would be sending this to the Township Board since it is a general law ordinance as opposed to zoning.
I looked at this and there was a couple of things, but the first one, under D, second bullet, garage or rummage sales lasting more than 7 days in any 60-day period. So is that saying that you can be more than 7 days and up to 59 days? Do we have a max on that?
That sounds like a flea market.
Sorry, how many days did you, what was your example?
No, it says so.
No, but what did you say? You said,
What?
does that mean that you can have, what was your question?
Well, it's between 7 days and a 60-day period. So if I wanted to have a garage sale for 59 days,
You would
That's
need
too
a
long.
special event permit.
all right, all right. But up to that point, I don't. So I mean, is there a,
For lasting
More-
for more than 7 days, so say you had an 8-day garage sale, then you would need a special event permit.
okay, so the trigger there is 7 days. The other item is further down, the last one, any organized gathering of more than 200 people. Is that at any one time, or is that over the period of,
It's a one-time.
so any one time when there's at least 200 people there? Okay?
Unless it's an event venue, so a church
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something that's
yeah.
been approved through zoning.
And then, in the issuance of the permit under section 4.1, item number 3, or III, an applicant, where they're saying that you would be denied, it says an applicant has not had a special event permit revoked within the preceding 12 months. Is that just East Bay or anywhere?
Just East Bay.
Okay, so they could be revoked or not have something in, let's say, Traverse City, and we would still allow the same thing here? And then finally, in section 6, you would, it says, I guess my question was, in removing the waste, who would be responsible for removing the waste? Those special events shall continue beyond the expiration date. The committee shall remove all items used in connection with special events, dispose of the waste. Okay, I answered my own question. Okay. That's,
Thanks for the thorough review.
well,
What do you think, Carl?
I was just wondering, what about Mount Holiday? They have, I can think of 3 or 4 already. Would they be,
So the thing about Mount Holiday is, and I've talked with them about coming in for site plan review, they're low-density residential, they can get a special land use permit, they can be a place of public assembly, they can host events on a frequent basis. They've done it traditionally, so there is some element of non-conforming, because they've kind of established over years, even, pre-zoning, they've had some level of activity there. But they do plan to come in front of the planning commission for place of public assembly.
okay, to,
And they have a very, they have a good route to receiving those permits because of what their zoning is.
okay.
The difference with like a camps and campground is it's outside of the urban growth boundary. They're only allowed in lakes area and natural area. And so those places, you don't allow, they're not allowed to have any type of place of public assembly out there. So that would allow them to still have these special events without being like an event venue.
And so the way this is written, the trigger is more than 200 people? Okay, so somebody, like when the Safe Route stuff goes in and we have that pavilion there next to the car wash, if somebody wanted to have a small concert there, but 200 people expected would have to be the trigger for them to have to get like a special event.
Yep, and that would be considered a public property, so.
Okay. Makes sense.
I'm thinking also in the proposal for the Great Lake property.
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
I can't remember how many events, we talked about it, I thought. And the number 8 was in my head, too.
That's the number I was thinking too.
They are not planning to meet the requirements for coming in for a special event permit.
Okay. I
But
thought
they
for some reason-
could, in the event that they do have a
I mean, that-
need.
That's true. That was part of their, kind of the way they presented their application to the planning commission, was
Right.
that was not their intent.
Right. But plans change, right? Mm-hmm. So if plans change, they do have the opportunity to come in and obtain a permit, and they could get up to 8 in a year.
More than 8. We're not limiting public properties. And that was a discussion that the planning commission wanted to provide more equity for the publicly owned properties. All other properties can only have 3 per year, but if you're limiting publicly owned properties to 3 per year, then you're kind of having winners and losers in terms of the ability to host an event.
Especially multi-city regional events.
It just seems like deja vu.
So anyway, just wanted to find out if this was something that the planning commission was comfortable with as you recall, you were comfortable with this language previously, and we made the one change was related to Timber Ridge.
Yeah, I
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, I feel good about it.
Yeah.
Has the board weighed in at all, the township board? on
We will send it to the township
Yeah,
board.
they looked at it.
Right, yep.
Why did we wait this long?
Get in their business.
Because,
I mean, we recommended it to the board and then what?
and then we found staff, I would say, found Timber Ridge to be an issue with this ordinance if it was passed.
Okay.
Then we would basically be eliminating the majority of Timber Ridge's operations. And so we paused it, circled
Okay.
back with our attorneys. We were onboarding our attorneys. It took some time to
Okay.
kind
That
of
makes
hew
sense.
this up in terms of some of the other stuff our attorneys were working on. Good question, though.
I was just curious.
Do we
Stuff
need-
goes by this long and you start to forget. I'm like, oh, we talked about this?
I had forgotten too, so.
Okay.
I've forgotten the date too. What was the date that we originally?
We discussed it in September of 2024, and the Planning Commission recommended it to the Township Board in December of 2024, so.
And that was kind of pre-details and applications, right, with the camp?
Oh, with
Remind me
Camp
of
Grey Lake?
timing, yeah.
Camp Grey Lake was pretty much fully 2025. I think the
Yeah,
sketch plan review was,
So this was before that. And the intent of what the camp parks, Parks Commission was going to do with the camp.
September.
I think we need to take it back and revisit it again. I know you guys hate that and we'll have to rehash some things, but just knowing timing I would assume the board would be asking questions like that, right?
I'm lost at what your concern is.
Are you talking about Camp Grayling? Bringing them back?
Yes,
No, this,
This?
yes.
Oh.
So this was, we reviewed this and decided in '24 to send it to the board. And we really didn't get into Parks and Rec and what their plans were for Camp Greilich until '25.
Camp Graylick's a
it's public.
public, and this is a private.
But isn't there some language in here that should be concerning? Or am I making an honest mistake?
There-
Only for applying for private property?
Yeah, so a public property and a private property would still come in front of this board for, or, sorry, not this board, would still come in front of the township
Township.
for a special event permit.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
so I still have a few marbles rolling around up there. Okay,
Yeah, so whether you are hosting a special event on DNR property or county property or Timber Ridge, private property, you'd still come and get that special event. The way that this is written is that private properties are limited in terms of the number of special events that they can have. Public properties are not
Okay.
limited. Yeah, but you'd still have
Still
to
have to come
adhere
back.
to the standards for special events.
And they don't have to come in front of the board, but it just goes to staff.
Right, yeah, yeah.
You would like to have a recommendation to the township board from the planning commission as presented, right? Okay.
Okay, with the additions.
With the additions, yes.
Question before you make your motion, if that's okay.
Sure.
Is camps and campgrounds defined?
Yeah, in the ordinance, and it's a category, yeah.
That's, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, good question.
Carl?
Yeah.
There also
I was like, did she just call him Paul?
There's a typo on 3.1.
Oh,
B,
Carl.
But
Oh, Carl.
it's more a sentence thing, so I just point that out.
What is it under? Let me write it down.
Says no more than 3 special events may be permitted on private A property per calendar year.
You said it's 3 point,
Right here.
3.1B.
B,
okay.
Move A
yeah.
on the other side of private.
Right. No more than 3 special events may be permitted on private.
Is
Okay, thank you.
ordinance number 1 of 2025,
Is that what it's called?
that says.
So I'll make a motion to recommend the township board, the special events ordinance. Is ordinance 1 of 2025?
Yep. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you. We have a motion by Carl, seconded by Renee for recommending support of East Bay Charter Township Ordinance Number 1 of 2025, Special Events Ordinance to the board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Okay.
Motion carries. And when do you think that will go in front of the board, by the way?
I will talk with Beth about schedule. It won't be on the December meeting, but I think at the earliest, it would probably be January.
Okay,
Yeah, just depending on agenda items.
okay. Okay,
Is that a special concern or
nope,
something you want me to?
nope,
Okay.
just curiosity.
Okay.
Anything additional comments for future items to chat about?
Oh, I did have one question. Do we, as a planning commission, need to, reading all about the data center things and stuff like that? Is that something we
Yeah.
should be looking at, or you should be looking at?
We
or-
should be, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's everywhere.
Get on that.
No, I do think that's something we should be looking at.
Looking at what?
I've just been
The
reading
data
about all these
centers.
data centers, controversies, mostly downstate, but also
Yeah.
Telcaster recently.
Oh, yeah, that was.
So I would say probably right now with our existing ordinance, they could be located only in our industrial district.
Okay.
But we probably would want to I do think that we need to take a closer look at specifically what, if we've got some standards associated with it and those types of things, so.
And they need to pick up a couple of.
Yeah, and we do have a big power line.
Couple of those sections.
Yeah, yeah, I know, yeah.
So, anyway.
Good thought. I talked about that this last week.
Yeah, we can get that on the agenda for 2026. I think the other item that we should look a little bit at is just energy and battery storage. So I think those are,
Will you structure those as just kind of like have a subject matter expert come in? I'd just like to be better educated on what the heck it is.
I know a subject matter expert that we could bring in.
Okay.
So, yep, that sounds good.
That'd be great.
Public comment, round two?
Greg Gilezzo, East Bay Township.
Wait,
Sorry.
Wait,
I have a
get the mic.
sonorous voice, would that be adequate?
Just for our populous population.
So, some of these concepts appear dizzying at times, and I was trying to get my head around this ordinance in terms of the special events, and now I understand a little bit more about public property versus private property, but then sometimes the more you read about it and understand, more questions arise, and one of the questions that comes to my mind is, so does that mean that any private property in East Bay Township can have 3 special events? And what are the size limits on those properties? And would they be in the Lakes District, in the environmentally sensitive districts, on the shores of Arbutus and Spider Lake? We have different property categories on the lakes. They are Airbnbs, they're short-term rentals, there are cabin courts that are now resorts per resort title, but are they really still cabin courts versus site condos? And I took a look at a few of the websites, and there's a resort on Spider Lake that's advertising wedding events up to 150 people on their 0.8 acre property with up to 150 people. And where does the township regulate that, or should we be, or do we want to have special events occurring, throughout the township? And I'm not sure what I'm asking, but there's going to be some questions, I think, from the general public about these issues, especially since, there's a lot of heightened awareness in terms of events and large groups in the township. And I think it would make some sense that we all would want to understand how to interpret what's going on. So, thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you. Anybody else? Nope. All right, our next meeting will be next year, January 6th, 2026. It's frightening to think about, but
it
it
is.
is coming.
It is, it's scary.
And thanks, everybody. We're a half hour late, but it's not too bad. Appreciate everyone.
Sorry, Dan.
We're adjourned.